Welcome to the podcast. I'm Eric Salzman, joined by Kevin Doherty and Richie Bennett. How are we, boys?
How you
Good.
doing? Happy pre 250th birthday, America.
That's right.
I'm excited.
That's right.
It's going to be a
Um,
good time.
it's going to be a hot one.
So we are of the ages where we probably can remember. I know I do.
The tall
1970.
ships? Yep.
So that was 200. That was the bicentennial, right?
Right.
And I'm the oldest of five, but I still can see in my head. I'm the oldest of five, so I was 9 at that moment. And we lived down by the river in Peekskill, New York. And I guess my parents were prudent and smart that they were like, yeah, we probably shouldn't go to the river to watch the fireworks where our oldest kid is 9 and we got a 7 and we got a 5. And so, but my bedroom faced the river. That was my like great memory of the bicentennial. Like I just sat in bed and watched the fireworks. It was hot, and I opened my window and the screen was up, but I could hear and see the fireworks. It was so
Did you
cool.
see the tall ships? You remember the tall
Yes,
ship? They're
yes,
coming
because they
back.
kind of came. They went all the way up to like West Point then.
Sure. Well, I
So
live when I live now is it's the Naval Academy.
right,
Well, I was driving over the Bay Bridge, it's like a 4 mile bridge, and I almost drove off the bridge as I looked to my right, and I'm like, holy crap, like, big ass tall ship, triple mast, like the whole thing. I'm like, at first I was like, that just seems like I'm having a flashback or something. Then I realized, oh shit, yeah, it's 250, and I'm right near the Naval Academy, so all those guys are probably heading up there. But um, let's get into it. We got a lot to cover. So last week, and actually the week before that, and the week before that, Kevin's been keeping us up to speed on strategy. That's Michael Saylor's crypto treasury, Bitcoin treasury, and he specifically alerted us to the preferred equity, cumulative equity of strategy called Stretch, STRC. And Kevin, last week you ended with it's going to be a big week. One way or the other, it's going to be a big week. They're going to do something and take it away because they did something on Monday.
They did, yeah. And it looks like they did something that's pretty intelligent. So they announced a new, basically, capital markets strategy designed to give confidence in both Stretch and the other preferreds that trade. There are a couple of smaller facilities and in the MSTR equity. And so what they announced is they're going to set up a US dollar reserve facility that is going to, at all times, have a minimum 12 months worth of cash on hand to pay dividends and any other obligations upcoming. So they have also sold some Bitcoin and raised cash. At the moment, they have 2.55 billion US dollars in cash, which covers 17 and a half months of Stretch dividends and other obligations. And they also announced that they're going to set up a $1 billion buyback facility for both the preferreds and then separately an additional $1 billion facility that can be used to buy back MSTR equity. So those are discretionary. So they may or may not have been active with those this week. Again, we'll find out on Monday when the 8K comes out again, and we'll see if they've done anything this week. I would not be surprised if they've done something this week because the both MSTR and STRC did trade quite a bit higher on the week. STRC bottomed at around 71 and a quarter before all this was announced. It rallied every day this week, got as high as $90 and closed just under $88. So still below that $100 par value area, which would indicate basically no more stress in the market. It may not get quite back there in the next few weeks, but I'd be surprised if it does not, keep ticking higher and maybe get above 95. What else? The CEO. So Michael Saylor is the chairman of the board of strategy, but the CEO is a guy named Fong Li. He announced that he bought on his personal account $1 million worth of STRC. as well. So he did that back on June 22nd. $1 million is, it's a decent amount. So he's putting a little bit of his money where his mouth is. So that also added a little bit of confidence to the market. But June was a terrible market for Bitcoin, crypto, and MSTR. Just to put some numbers behind that, Bitcoin was down 20% in June, which was its worst monthly performance in 4 years since June 2022. The Bitcoin ETFs had $4.5 billion of outflows in June, which is the biggest monthly figure they've had since launching. And the MSTR equity, so strategies common share, was down 45% in June. So ugly numbers for the month, but a turnaround this week, and we'll see how that carries on. The final thing I'd add is I know I've talked before about the importance of Chinese liquidity to the crypto market, and the liquidity operations in China have been picking up as well. So the central bank of China had been relatively tight in the market since the Iran war started back in February, and now they've started to ease again, which is interesting. And some China watchers think that those two things are not uncorrelated. So when the Iran war started, they were worried about inflation picking up with higher oil prices, and so they squeezed the brakes a little bit. And now that at least there's the ceasefire process ongoing, perhaps they're going to ease, which they desperately need to do. So that's something to certainly keep an eye on in the coming weeks and months, and see if that is not just a blip, but if it's a start of some more liquidity.
Kevin, for liquidity, what you're talking about is the amount of available cash sloshing around the system. So when central banks ease, it is more liquidity, more cash to buy things with, just as a kind of
right. Using the tools they have, repos and reverse repos and all that.
So at first, as a layman, when I saw the plan for strategy on Monday, my first thought was like, now they're a company that sells Bitcoin versus a company that doesn't buy Bitcoin. But I guess when you look at it, at the end of the day, if this all works out, it's just they're kind of deleveraging a bit, right? Meaning that now that they're going to sell Bitcoin, are they bringing down their leverage component a bit?
Well, I think they want to just buy time for the Bitcoin market to recover. So, and they're hoping that they can then reissue newer stretch into the market so that they can step up their liquidity. But yes, if they go through, they set aside $1 billion. If they're buying back these prefs, $1 billion of prefs, then that is deleveraging. So
not the end of the world, right? I mean, it's
no.
And I'm sure they'll try to be kind of predictable, if you will, as far as like, okay, we know that potentially every Monday there could be a big seller. They're going to report we're going to see a big seller of Bitcoin potentially, right? So do they kind of act like the Fed and like be very transparent what they're doing, or
I think they finally got to the point where they realized that confidence was rapidly evaporating, and that is deadly for a finance company, as you all know. And so they had to stop that bleeding, or else things could have gotten out of control very, very quickly. So look, of all the things that they've done over the last 6 months, this is the only one that I could look at and say, okay, this makes sense. This is smart. So just that is encouraging after all the missteps that we've seen since February, really.
So I'll go on my shameless promotion stool. For those of you who are watching for the first time, and those of you who are not watching for the first time, you should tell all your friends, because I also was kind of a neophyte in this crypto game, and Kevin explained this whole thing. And now all of a sudden, I think if you said stretch to regular people after this week, they would know what that was. Or like if you said like uh, strategy, stretch, oh yeah, that thing, that preferred. So just to reiterate, Kevin's been talking about this for weeks now, and now it's part of the regular discussion in the financial markets. So keep tuning in and keep telling your friends, because when I read some of these articles this week, I was like, yeah, I knew this. I knew this. I knew this since like 2 weeks ago when Kevin taught me about it, on the podcast.
And we've had friends step up and put their money where their mouth is when
Yeah.
Stretch was getting clobbered, and now they're very happy now.
We should be saying this is not financial advice. Do not call your
It's
lawyer.
too late for
Yeah.
that. But they're winners. Okay,
Yeah.
great. Let's move on to you now, guys. We wanted to talk about this Palantir fella Karp, and he kind of went off about AI last week or like this week, I guess, or earlier this week.
Right. So Alex Karp, the CEO of Palantir, had has problems, I guess, with OpenAI, Anthropic. He's caused like a big rift. He hasn't caused it, but he's pointing out a big rift, and he's basically saying like these big companies are paying too much for AI capability, whichever way they get it, chips, what have you. And he's angry that he feels like these companies, the AI suppliers, if you will, are taking too much and not giving enough back. He seemed to be really mad that some of the comments seemed like he was kind of dressing down some of these powerful companies for paying up to these AI providers, if you will, and maybe not getting a lot in return, and maybe not stopping what could be a theft of their capabilities. Kevin, I know you had some thoughts on what was going on with that too.
Yeah, I mean, he is a super, super impressive and super bright guy. But in this kind of a rant that he went
It
on
was on
I think it was
CNBC, right?
CNBC. Yeah.
Did
Yeah.
he drop the F bomb?
I don't remember that,
I
but
think he said effing insane or something like that.
he
He
may
didn't say
have.
the word.
I hear that word so often, it just doesn't register with me
Yeah.
anymore. I got a 14-year-old son, so
Yeah.
but he so he didn't he could have articulated his position better because he said some things that sound like they could be sort of contradictory, but they're not when you dig into it. So he said, number one, these companies are paying way too much. So the customers of AI, of OpenAI and Anthropic, are paying too much for what they're getting. That was one of his key points. And his other key points is also they're letting OpenAI and Anthropic into all of their all of the customers' corporate systems where they're able to see everything, all the IP, all the secrets, all the customer lists, all the strategy pieces, all the presentations, and they're basically able to get full visibility into these companies, and that information is incredibly valuable. And you could get into a situation where Anthropic either sells that information to another company, or maybe they spin up their own company to compete with the existing company who's a client of theirs. And so it touches on that whole issue of, these AI companies are sucking in all this data for their training, and they're not compensating people for it. So, it's like, and some of the like authors and artists and other people have said, yeah, no shit. How do they've been training on every piece of music and every piece of literature and every news ever written, and they're not compensating anybody who created that. Now they're doing it with the companies. And so Alex Karp isn't wrong, but it's like, you know, shouldn't you have seen this coming a couple of years ago?
Yeah, when somebody went in and obviously paid a lot for the intelligence tokens, like nobody thought of that. Like
Yeah.
I know like with banks, credit unions, there's already a big to do about with that exact problem. But I think in that world, probably because they're just such slow movers, they've kind of like, you remember we talked about how Jamie Dimon and JP Morgan missed. They were given credit for not falling for the subprime problem when the reality was they were trying like hell to get in, but they kept tripping all over themselves. Well, I think it may sound like that for a lot of the banking system too, with regards to AI. Or I think they were smart. They were like this is a highly regulated business, and if somehow this customer information gets out, because I use this AI, then this is going to be a huge problem. But yeah, I mean, a lot of these companies, I mean, it almost sounded so. I mean, Plantiers, aren't they like taking over the world? Like I always hear Plantiers like they do all the war fighting
All
stuff
the
and
defense stuff, yeah, and
yeah.
intelligence, and
This is Peter Thiel, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's an aside too. Our Kevin's good buddy from kindergarten, who happens to be the big short guy, Michael Burry, um, came out about Palantir in like November, I think last year. Yeah, I think it was November or December. And he said, yeah, he wasn't harsh on Palantir, but he was like, yeah, they get too much from the government. All their businesses contracts with the government, and that can change at any moment.
Right.
And this guy, Alex Karp, who I think said effing insane the other day, called him batshit crazy. He called Burry batshit crazy on CNBC, I think. Well, Mr. Burry has missed on a few things by being short, obviously, in the last 6 months. That one, he was right on. Like,
Yeah.
Palantir's stock is down 30% since Burry pointed out the fact that these guys get too much from the government. That's their one client, right? The US government, and they don't really have other clients. So this guy, Karp, might just be angry, like angry at everything, like his net worth is going down
At
30%.
the same time, I mean, yeah, he's that general criticism and concern of opening up all your secrets that suddenly are not going to be yours anymore is very real. And I was thinking there's a good analogy of what happened with China over the last 20-25 years, where they invited all these foreign companies to come in, set up a joint venture. We'll make cars and chemicals and trains and play everything. We'll do it together. And so they did. All the German, Japanese, American companies went in and set up JVs, and the Chinese learned all their secrets about how to create these products and said, okay, thank you. You can leave now. And so now the Chinese automobile industry is poised to take over the world and be a much bigger threat. I mean, we remember the threat of the Japanese car manufacturers in the 1980s, that all of a sudden, they were killing the American companies because they were making a better product. And China right now, it was announced earlier this week or last week, Volkswagen in Germany, they're shutting down 5 factories and going to lay off 100,000 employees in Germany over the next, I think, 5 years.
Hmm.
And Germany is in big trouble because China went from being their number one customer to now their number one competitor. And the Germany has the highest or second highest industrial electricity prices in the world, and they have no answer to this threat. And so, do we really want a handful of AI companies to have the secrets of every one of their customers and have no safeguards around that? It's a
Well,
big issue.
let's think about, I mean, this has obviously been going on for at least a year, right? At least a year and a half of this massive AI investment for corporate America. So how much stuff do they already have? I mean, they've already, and I
It might
wonder
be too
also
late.
the geniuses who decide, okay, yeah, Anthropic is worth 85 billion. Like that's where we think the IPO, that's what the company's worth. How much of that value do you think smart guys go? Yeah, they get all these secrets. Like basically, they are amassing a portfolio of IPs that are just, and what is anybody going to do about it? I mean, you can't. I mean, can you prove it? I mean, that's the thing. And so if everybody starts saying, hey, I'm not going to spend the AI spending, I ready to blew through my budget for 2026, and we're probably not going to do anything for quite a while because we're not necessarily seeing the benefit. And then on top of this is, hey, we got to protect our IP. And maybe, you know what? It's worth having higher operating expenses versus giving away our entire all the corporate secrets to these guys. So, I mean, again, seems to me like it's another big thing for AI. That's kind of all we heard about was great things for a year and a half, and now it seems like the last 6 months, all we've heard is just one problem after the next with regards to how are these guys going to make the revenue they need to make to justify the investment.
Yeah, and to go back to Karp's thing with him being pissed off at these big companies or whomever, we talked about it last week. Like Apple, I think, is going to push back shortly. I mean, it'll be the chip guys that get hit with that. Micron, AMD, SanDisk, because they're going to have to. Apple's already announced that they're raising their prices $200 on their iPads, $200 on their regular Mac Airs, what have you. And I think why they did that was to see how the retail customer reacts. Like if they can get that money, if they can get those higher prices for their products, okay, it kind of moves along. If they don't, and they start getting hit on their revenues, they'll just be like, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're the biggest customer probably of a lot of these guys, and we're the client, you're not. We're now going to dictate what prices we pay. And that's a big, to go back to that octopus thing we always talk about, everything is connected. That could really trigger things downward.
Oh, by the way, I'm glad as long as we're taking victory laps today. Remember last week that was the big subject last week. We were talking. You guys were talking about the memory chip makers, Micron and Samsung and AMD. Well, I saw this and I was like, somebody must have been watching the podcast because on June 25th, a major antitrust class action lawsuit was filed against Micron, Samsung, SK in the U.S. in the Northern District of California. Now, I wonder who that was. The Northern District of California. It's an interesting place to file, but it's exactly what you were talking about. It's like these guys clearly they made a huge windfall on this thing. They probably were, they knew they were price makers. They weren't takers. They were price makers, and they reamed the crap at everybody. And now, so everything you said last week is starting to come true with regards to the backlash now against the memory chip makers for making a gazillion. What did you say it was like $40 billion or something the last quarter for Micron?
Yeah.
It's
85% margins.
So, and I wonder, like you wonder, like everybody can understand this is watching this program. Like, are the guys at Micron, Samsung, whatever? Are they like nasty on the phone? Like the sales guys, he like, yeah, that's the price, guy. Where else you going? Where else are you going to get this shit? And the guy on the other end is like, yeah, today I'll pay that price. Someday you're going to be stuck, bro, and it won't be comfortable for you. We'll figure out another way to build this mousetrap, and you will be dead.
For so many years, though, those like Micron was the kind of the redheaded stepchild of the computer chip industry.
Yeah. I mean,
and so they're, hey, we'll take what we can get.
Right.
And I don't like the employees there. I have some family in Boise, and they say like that's where Micron is headquartered. And it's like the reputation is it's not that nice a place to work. It's kind of a sweatshop, and it's not like working at Apple where you get massages and, free frozen yogurt and, Taco Tuesday. It's not like that at all. And so, but now they've got their time in the sun. So
maybe they're trying to shine.
Yeah.
But it's always a cycle, those things, like, right? The chip world is always a cycle. Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like the oil companies, right? Same thing. There's
yeah.
windfall profits when there's a massive shortage and they've got the thing that everybody needs. And then,
Yeah.
they'll probably overexpand. They'll probably do too many. Everyone will buy a Lambo or something like that in Boise, and then they'll crash. That's how we do things. Well,
Yeah.
let's move along now to Mr. Trump was in the news this week. He's always in the news, but he was in the news this week about his they disclosed how much he's made since he's become president in January 2025. And again, to be early to this, Kevin and I wrote a piece on Matt Taibbi's racket back in September 2025, and it was titled, and we'll put this out on the blog, on the Monkey Business blog anyway, if I could find it. Oh yes, it was called, the title was Trump's World Liberty Financial, a cryptocurrency revolution, or just a bigger Trump university. And what we said was two questions come to mind. Is Trump using the presidency for personal profit? Will investors get screwed like the investors in Trump branded gimmicks such as Trump University? And we basically pointed out, Kevin, we pointed out like I think it was like the four major ways at the time that the Trump family, or their company was, I can't remember the name of the company. It's a DT, which is DT. What was it? That's where they were tracking where all the money was going.
Yeah.
And we went through kind of each way that they were making money and kind of the abnormal way that they were being able to do business. And the one thing that we warned was, right now, just like the Clintons did it and Obama, and they all did the same thing. Hey, right now, everybody wants to be associated with Trump, and that's why we're going to buy this meme coin. We're going to do this. We're going to buy this. We're going to buy your stable coin, do all this stuff because of the Trump brand. Well, what happens to the Trump brand when Don is no longer president, and they don't have that same political power. They'll still have a lot of power, still, just like and we'll talk about that. But Kevin, let's go through the different ways that they made money. And I think we went through. There was, I mean, the meme coin, right? With the dollar Trump. That was like, and that's where they had the dinner, right? They had the
Right.
dinner back at, and it was to meet that. And Justin Sun bought like 75 million just to get himself into the dinner. And then I think Trump basically showed up, shook everybody's hand, and then left. But like that coin is trading pennies on the dollar right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's way down. And the main ones were where there could be some utility is this World Liberty Financial, which was announced as this basically like a holding company that was going to launch a bunch of different DeFi, so decentralized finance applications. And the only one that I'm aware of that has gotten any real traction at all, and I'm going to use quotation marks with traction, is the stable coin. And we talked about that, and this has been written about before. I mean, the story that came out today, I don't think or that came out a few days ago, there's no new information there. It's just kind of an update and like, hey, by the way, this is how much they made because of the Trump had to do a financial disclosure for the last year. But the stable coin is the one also that there's $2 billion sitting in the stable coin, which was purchased by an Abu Dhabi sovereign wealth fund entity, which used that stablecoin to buy a stake in Binance, which is the biggest cryptocurrency exchange in the world. And Binance has left that on their balance sheet, that $2 billion in stablecoin. And the way that works is the issuer of that's a World Liberty Financial in this case, they've received $2 billion in cash from the Abu Dhabi entity who then received those stable coins in exchange. And so they're sitting on those $2 billion, which they can use to buy treasury bills and basically make risk-free 4%. So that's $80 million a year, as long as that.
A little walking around money. Now,
Yeah.
but let's talk about the stable coin, where the reason why Binance took the Trump stable coin, the $2 billion from Abu Dhabi, as opposed to maybe half of it in Trump stable coin or a quarter of it in Trump stable coin, was that the CZ, and I forget his full name, but the head of
Yeah.
Binance was looking for a pardon, a presidential pardon, which he
Allegedly.
got.
Can't prove it.
Allegedly. Allegedly
Yeah.
looking for a presidential pardon, which he got, and then
Yeah.
Trump acted like he never knew the guy. He didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
And then we found out that like a couple of days before the inauguration, Abu Dhabi, by basically they got a 49% stake, right, for $500 million in W World Financial, what is it, WFLI?
World Liberty Financial.
World Liberty, sorry, World Liberty Financial. They paid $500 million to get that, which a lot of that went straight into into Trump's pocket. And the name of the company, his holding company, is called DT Marks Defy. DT. I wonder, they could have been a little more, but but right after that, the Trumps basically, I mean, now the President Trump gave the okay for Abu Dhabi to get very, very high level artificial intelligence chips, right? They were being embargoed, that we weren't giving those out because honestly, we wouldn't care if Abu Dhabi had them, but we know that Abu Dhabi, for the most part, will put them up in the cloud, and then China will have them. And that was the big security issue around why we were stopped. And so it seemed like a very large pay for play that we basically sold out, a huge asset that we did not want our number one competitor militarily and economically, China, to get their hands on. So we reported all of that, and yeah, I mean it's a big number, right? I mean it's something like 1.4 billion is directly related to the crypto enterprise.
For 2025.
Right.
So that's what was in this financial disclosure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I remember in the first term, early on, like immediately when he was elected, Trump, there was constant. I don't remember the month. Might have been like February or March after he got inaugurated in January. Constant, like Don Jr., Eric, whatever, saying how much money he is giving up by being the president of the United States, right? Like he could be doing real estate deals and all this other stuff, but he's not. And he's donating his salary of the 400,000 as the president to charity or something. So I wonder if like he sat there and did that for 4 years, and then he loses the election to Biden and might have looked around and said, geez, I got a lot less than I used to have. And maybe he thought the avenue, I think he wanted to be president more than money again. But I think once he won and all that Hunter Biden stuff went on, he was like, yeah, we're not doing that again. What I learned from my first term, I could make a lot more money in my second term by, and what they call it, the founding fathers called it the honest steal, something. It was like basically like he's out in the open telling people what he's doing with his sons, right? Like he's just like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're buying, this is it. And it went all the way back, 250 years ago, as we celebrate our, whatever they call it, the 250th anniversary. But I think he was just like, no. We're going to profit off this. I didn't do it the first time. I am doing it now.
Well, also though, like crypto really didn't exist in its form then than it did now, right? So the opportunity to look, I think to just be very fair, this has been going on for a long time, and I'm not talking about Trump, talking about the presidency for a long time, and
by all parties.
Lyndon Johnson the man who somehow became a they think that he actually had more money than John F. Kennedy when he took the vice presidency. And everybody would go, well, not everybody would, but they would be like, wow, like how does a guy who grew up dirt poor, has been nothing but a government employee for the last since the late 30s, how does a guy like that have a radio and TV empire? He owns real estate, cattle lands, everything all through the state of Texas. How is Lyndon Johnson? And I'll tell you something else, a little interesting thing, that I read this, and that Robert Caro has written brilliant biographies about the LBJ. And he's supposed to finish the last one, which is basically Vietnam and the last years of Lyndon Johnson's presidency of his life. But LBJ, when he came into the White House. Oh, sorry. Get back. So this is right before JFK was assassinated. Life magazine was going to run an article, a big one, called Lyndon Johnson's Money. And at the same time that was going on, there was actually a subcommittee investigation going on, I believe, in the House of Representatives and they had details. They had, people that had basically paid bribes. Like you'd want something from Lyndon Johnson, and you get a call from someone else, and he would be like, okay, you're going to do this much advertising over the next, year. You're going to advertise your business, and we're going to run it, on our stations. And well, your stations are in Texas, and I'm here in Virginia. Like what? What? And so all kinds of graft. And then Johnson, apparently, when he came into the White House, everything's supposed to go through the White House switchboard, but he had a private line attached to his the residence in the White House. And he did all his business from there. He had specific people that he talked to, and he ran his business. There's a long history of this. And how is Barack Obama worth $100 million? And you could say, well, good.
And I mean, I think it's well documented. I think Al Gore had family money, but I think he left the vice presidency and the loss of the election to President Bush. I think they said he had 400 grand in a 401k. That's what he had. And like his dad's house, the former senator from Tennessee, his dad willed to him. That guy has like $500 million now, like $500 million.
Right.
Like not just a millionaire. He's like, that wasn't that long ago, right? That was 30 years ago, whatever, when he left 30 something years ago.
Well, they wrote a book.
So he called it right. Well, he said he invented the internet, so maybe that was it. I don't know.
Well, like when Hillary would get,
he got a bunch of board seats, and I think one was on Apple. So he got a ton of stock options for being on the board of Apple, and those obviously.
Well, we think about that. Just because you leave the presidency, or you leave the Senate, or you leave the House, right? Or if you're a big, powerful, people still, even when you leave, they know that you still have that great Rolodex, right? So when Barack sells whatever book he's written lately, and he makes, he gets a $50 million advance or whatever it was, huge advance. You think anybody's reading that book? Like Hillary's, you think like Goldman Sachs wanted Hillary to come speak at their event because they wanted to hear what Hillary Clinton had to say and give this classic freaking, same speech. Why does Barack Obama get $600,000 to make a speech? And by the way, Biden's very upset that he's only getting nobody really is paying for him to come. And he was counting, because they come around and say he was counting on that. This is how I make back all the money that I didn't make, even though somehow he's got that gigantic, beautiful house in Delaware. Like, they know this is the path. You become president, you do your thing, and then you get out and you do podcasts with Bruce Springsteen, and you get big, gigantic advances to write a book that nobody gives a shit about. But you're buying that book, and people who buy that book in mass want that guy or that gal to know they bought that. And I want something, right? There's something, we've now made a connection, and I may need you in the future or now.
Funny stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy times.
So I think we said that all right, the only difference between Trump and them is that Trump played his game for billions and they only played for millions, right?
Right.
You know, Nancy's husband being the greatest stock picker ever, ever. I mean,
Right.
it's Fed governors trading like 24 hours before they save the planet, buying S&P futures and trading. I mean, it's just a big game. And
So, so there's a story of Winston Churchill, apparently, that's attributed to him. He was at a dinner party and sitting next to a woman, and he turned to her and said, "Madam, if I gave you £5,000, would you go to bed with me?" And she looked and said, "Well, Winston, what a thing to say, but I suppose I would." And he said, "How about if I gave you £50?" And she looked very indignant and looked, "Ah, certainly not. What kind of a woman do you think I am?" And he said, "Madam, we've already established that. Now we're negotiating." And just as you said, they're all prostitutes in the highest echelons of power. It just Trump happens to be a very, very pricey one. He's not
yeah.
afraid to ask for the big bucks and be completely brazen about it.
It's
But
funny because what they do now is that there's a famous story where Harry Truman left the White House in 1953, and he basically took the train home by himself. Had no money. Like they literally had the little house that they had in Missouri, and that was it. Because he was a public servant his entire. He went for he was I think he was in the army. Then he had in World War I. Then he had a couple of failed businesses, and then he got into politics, became senator, and then vice president, and then president. So he was a guy who played it. I guess Jimmy Carter too. They played it fair and square, and he walked away with absolutely nothing. But they keep juxtaposing that with Trump and somehow leaving out all these guys in the middle with their board seats. And I mean, it's just like, come on.
When you say Harry Truman, I think of like Fletch. Fletch goes up to the house he's trying to figure out what's going on.
Rural Utah.
And he goes up to the old guy who's sitting on the porch, who's the father of the lady he's trying to investigate. And he comes out and he says, "My name is Harry S. Truman." And the old guy goes, "Your name is Harry S. Truman?" "Yeah, my parents were big fans of the president." The old guy goes, "He sure showed those Japs." Fletch goes, "Twice."
Oh,
Harry S. Truman.
Oh, God. All right.
So we got a big wedding in a few hours.
Yes.
In the city of New York at the Garden of Madison Square. They're having the Kelsey Swift, or shall we call it Swift Kelsey wedding at Madison Square Garden with 1,000 people. 1,000 people attending, right? So do you guys have those like neighborhood it's like a Facebook, but it's like the neighborhood watch thing or whatever.
Yeah, next door. Yeah.
And I'm always like, I'm gonna cut this thing off. This is so stupid. Some guy's asking for a plumber, whatever. Like, and every time I go to like cancel it, I read something and I'm like, I can't cancel this thing. This is too entertaining. So today, the guy goes, which I thought was very funny. He goes, "Yeah, I heard," and I'm sure he was telling the truth. He goes, "Yeah, I heard 1,000 people are going to the Kelsey Swift wedding." He goes, "I'm 73. I don't think I've met 1,000 people in my life." And I was like, "That's perfect. That's perfect."
I mean, I just can't. You need more exposure. You don't get enough. I just don't. But apparently, it's going on. It's like it's going on for a long time. Like it's not just a ceremony and a reception. It's supposed to be like a weekend long event.
And the cops are extremely pissed, even though they're getting paid OT and all that. But it's like, really, 4th of July weekend, Now you're going to do this thing on a Friday night. They interviewed this retired cop. He was like, this is like an event where like, it's like a presidential event. Like the president
Pope's
is coming.
Yeah, the Pope's coming.
Everybody has to be on guard and watching and all that. And it was funny because on, I think it was, I don't know what show he was on, but maybe it was just a press conference. But the mayor of New York, Mamdani, somebody asks him, a reporter says, she's a billionaire. Who is paying the OT for all these cops? And he laughed. And so now people are like speculating, like he dodged the question. Maybe I don't know if he has any kids, but.
Is he going to the wedding?
Well, I was going to say, maybe he's got a front seat. Like I'll pay for the cops on the OT. Just give me tickets.
Oh,
maybe
why are they doing it there? It seems, I mean, not to be classist or anything, but that's really, really tacky.
Well, I don't know.
What they said
Jeff
that
Bezos went
helicopters can't fly over. Like every time they have these big celebrity weddings, the paparazzi are taking pictures and apparently, yeah, like you're not allowed to have. No one is allowed to have a cell phone that they can take pictures with. The only pictures that will be taken and shown are the ones that Kelsey and Swift want to be distributed.
I mean, there's some like story about how she's a big Knick fan, and all the Knicks are going apparently.
Of course,
but I don't get that at all. Like she's really tight with that Mariska Hargitay from Law and Order, right? Mm-hmm. And they both wore like it was Knick designed colors. Stevie Nicks,
yes,
was this thing. I thought people were like going out of their minds, but like, okay, I guess that's funny. I don't know, but so she's got some tie to Mariska, and then of course some good New York fella comes out and says, Taylor Swift, that's the broad who not too long ago was sitting with her man courtside at the Cleveland Cavaliers game because he has invested in the Cleveland Cavaliers. She is no Knick fan.
Well, I mean, let's face it, being New Yorkers, Richie and I, right? I mean, who the hell's in for the last 2 decades or more? The only people who are Knick fans are people who had to be Knick fans. Like, that's my team, and I'm going to suffer every freaking year. Why? So, like, the fact that all of a sudden Taylor Swift's a Knick fan, like, it doesn't make. I mean, God bless. Like, whatever. I guess I'm getting too old to understand. I don't even like her music. I don't have any idea
it's awful.
how this has become such a thing, but it is. God bless him. I'm still surprised he's still playing football because, I mean, his life now is going to be awesome, right? He can do, even if he didn't marry her, he'd do podcasts with his brother. I mean, he's set for life. Like, why kill yourself another year in the NFL? But this is just like, I don't understand it. Like, you don't get enough exposure. You need more. He's like Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
Yeah. Oh my God. It was, it would have been Princess Di's 65th birthday, I think, yesterday. So all the stuff, like, what a sad thing. Like, just, yeah. And they showed, Harry, little Harry, and little.
I think it's kind of sad that you know that.
It was on the TV like the whole day. Okay. I was like, what the hell are they doing? I didn't know if like she came back from the death or what was going on, but it was their birthday. That's fine.
Okay.
Wow. Another, I guess we're doing TMZ today. Mm-hmm. Another TMZ moment. Victor Willis passed away. Many people know who Victor Willis is.
I know who he is.
By name. Victor Willis was the co-founder, lead singer, and policeman for the Village People. So he was, if you saw, you know who the Village People are. So that was Victor Willis. He was only 74. I was surprised. Young. So I would think DJT, the president of the United States, right? He's a DJ at the big parties. He is big on that YMCA, right? He does the dance. I would think there's going to be a very special YMCA dance tomorrow at the Fair of America, or whatever they're calling it, on July 4th in DC. I think the DJT will dedicate that to his old buddy Victor Willis.
More, Richie?
So I guess we got to wrap it up with more fun, maybe a soccer pick. Right? There were 32 million viewers of the last game between the U.S. and Bosnia. 32 million. That's like crazy. That's like a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And now everybody who watched that game saw the red card given to Flo, the striker for the U.S. And I don't know, like just around here, like people who have no idea about soccer, whatever, they're like, he's been robbed. That was awful. That was an awful call. Red card for that? He didn't do anything wrong. So Jason Gay, who's pretty funny, he writes sports in the Wall Street Journal. He had an article today that said, yeah, we don't produce like great soccer players, but what we do produce is lawyers. So he's like charging the lawyers, like, go get him. Like, put a reinstatement in. Let that guy play. Because the rule is, because this guy got a red card in the last game, he not only gets kicked out of that game, but he's kicked out of the game Monday.
Yeah, he's out of the game now. And finally, I mean, we've been looking for a real striker, a finisher for like forever. And now we finally have the guy. I mean, he's not Messi or he's not Mbappe, but he could put the ball in the net, right?
Right. And the really cool thing is like I think he was always raised in London, but I guess his mom was born in Brooklyn, and he chose to play for the United States. So like this is like a big hero guy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. You know, I don't think it's going to happen on a holiday weekend where they're going to get an emergency stay from some judge.
I've heard there's no recourse. Like there's no recourse.
You can't do anything.
So I mean, to give the guy a red card now you're in the knockout round of the World Cup. But what he did, what he didn't do, which is like two guys going for the ball, was completely. It was unintentional, and I was shocked that he got the call. Anything.
Yeah. But they're comparing it. Yeah, they're comparing it like Messi did the similar thing and got no card. The yellow, not nothing.
So I get it. He's Messi. Messi gets to do what Messi wants to do. But a red card in the freaking knockout round, it's incredible. But
let's hope they feed off that anger and that energy. And they will be playing in the House of Champions, the Seahawks facility, which, as I'm sure everybody who's watching this knows, was designed to hold in noise. It's going to be loud.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a big home crowd being loud. So maybe that'll carry them to victory.
Belgium's stacked though. Belgium, between De Bruyne, I mean,
so before you get into that, I just have to say that I have underestimated this U.S. team, as those who have followed on this channel know. I picked them to tie twice. They won both games. So those are losers. I didn't think they were going to lose, but I thought they would tie. So my thinking is the other two gents on the panel here are soccer experts. So Monday,
how dare you?
The U.S. plays Belgium. And if you're looking at your whatever betting site, or apparently trading site, that's what they call them now. You're a trader if you buy and sell sports bets. It is basically a pickup. Like if you want to pick a side to advance, there is no favorite. I haven't seen that yet in this tournament. So that this could be like a really big close game that everybody will watch. I mean, if they got 32 million for the last game, I'm guessing there's going to be more for this one. Fox networks are very happy that they're going to have this game. So it's Monday night. The 6th of July is the game. So I will defer to the soccer experts. If you have a pick, please explain. U.S. and Belgium.
You go first.
And if you pick the draw after 90 minutes, which a lot of people do, that pays about 2.5 to 1 right now. So you might not know who's going to win, or might not feel strongly who's going to win. If after 90 minutes the game is tied, you win on the draw bet. But what say you, soccer experts?
I'll say if this was 4 or 8 years ago, the U.S. would have no chance because Belgium had great players. They still have those players. So De Bruyne, Lukaku, but they're not young anymore. So they've looked okay in the tournament, but not great. So I'm going to say the spirit, the hometown spirit, and the USA teams look pretty good. That'll be enough to carry them through. I'll say 2 to 1 in regular time.
There we go.
All right. I think losing Flo is a big deal, and everyone knows it's a big deal. Lukaku, though, did exactly what you expect a guy, elite guy like that to do. He scores the big goal when you need it. That's what Haaland does. That's what Messi does. That's what Mbappe does. There's only so many of those guys in the world. And Belgium, I wouldn't say Lukaku's right there with those other guys, like the top, but he's there. And he looked, I mean, Belgium looked asleep for the first 85 minutes of that game. And then, I mean, all of a sudden, and a guy like that comes to life, because a guy like that, he knows how to conserve himself. But it just is like those guys get it done. And I don't think we have that right now. So I am going to say, unfortunately, Belgium 2, USA 0.
Oh,
wow.
All
right. So I'm going to chime in, not make a prediction, but I will make an observation. One of the hot teams is Paraguay, right? They just beat Germany in the knockout round on penalty kicks. Germany loses on penalty kicks. That never happens, right? And all I will say is the USA, that was one of my wrong predictions of the USA and Paraguay playing to a draw. The USA beat Paraguay 4 to 1. I know you can't compare apples to oranges or whatever. Matchups make a difference. But if Paraguay is the hottest team, and the USA blasted them, and the USA lost to Turkey, their only loss, but they had all the guys that really mattered kind of playing a little bit. So they played like the B squad. The USA might be real. And I'll end it with this. The coach, they paid Ken Griffin, our friend at Citadel, who loves soccer, wrote a big check to get this coach to coach. Like he's being paid millions. And apparently the first thing they did when they hired him, they showed him the Miracle on Ice movie. And he started crying. Like he was just like crying. Like it was the U.S. Olympic hockey team from 1980. And he started crying. And then he just said, all right, why not us?
Right.
And so that's like the theme of the team now. Why not us? Why can't we do this? So we'll see. This will be interesting.
So what's your call, Richie? What score you think?
I'm gonna bet the draw. I always bet the draw.
Will the draw? 2-2?
Yeah, I think the U.S. will win on penalty kicks for like huge drama,
right?
Which I'm excited for.
All right. Well, good stuff, guys. Enjoy the 4th, everybody, and we'll be back next week.